1, 2, is this on?
Sometimes in WWE, a big moment or tease can ultimately come to nothing.
But how about this? What if you and I, one more time, main evented WrestleMania?
That was literally him coming to me and saying, like, dude, I want to do a match next year. I'd like to do it with you. Like, let us have that WrestleMania match we never got to have. And I was like, yeah, I'm in.
One-off shocks that seemingly start a new storyline can go unresolved.
Next time when I fight Big Show and body slam him over a table, that's going down next year in Orlando.
That's a big man. People way above my pay grade couldn't put that deal together.
A subtle but potentially key story device may be featured but then never executed.
The Hurt Business got shut down in WWE for reasons that have never been made clear to me. You know, there are people there in management that I dislike immensely. A person, and I won't even bother to get into that.
Well, how about where there's lots of buzz and hype behind a wrestler that ultimately goes nowhere?
You have it. You've got it. Yeah, you want Brock, you've got it.
I was waiting for that phone call the whole time. And then to get that particular phone call that I got, and there was still so much uncertainty after the phone call, I was like, man.
Today, we'll be looking at examples featuring all of this and more as we highlight 10 moments that ultimately led to nothing in WWE.
How does Vince direct you?
I'm gonna bend her over, and you're going to kiss her with all of the passion you can find.
In June 2025, R-Truth announced his contract wasn't going to be renewed by WWE. No one could believe it as tributes poured in on social media from his peers. The fans, meanwhile, were outraged. Given how beloved Truth was, there was a lot of backlash, enough to force WWE and their parent company TKO's hand into going back on their decision. Truth returned a week later at Money in the Bank to much shock and fanfare. In the post-show press conference, Triple H tried to play the whole thing off as a work.
R-Truth, was he actually released or leaving the company? And if so, how much did fans play a role in it? Or was there something else that made you guys decide, like, you know what, we want this guy still here?
I love the question. You enjoying the show? Whole part of the show, man.
But Truth confirmed on social that this was not the case at all. The next night, Truth cut his hair while using his real name, Ron Killings.
I am Ron Killings!
And from here, he dropped the comedy and became a serious character again for the first time since 2011. Although, as the weeks progressed, it became clear creative didn't have much for Ron. He was brought back to appease the fans amidst all the bad PR, but there was no real plan. After just 2 months and having not done anything of substance on the show since first returning, Truth was back to his comedic ways.
If you back, I'm back. We back. I feel good. Hey, B-Sides, I got, you got, we all got a childhood hero.
My bad. I flew to Dublin, Georgia, and not Dublin, Ireland.
My name is Ron Cena.
His return and comeback promo had fans heavily invested, but WWE quickly squandered the buzz due to the lack of story and follow-up.
Like, I don't think Ron Killings failed because of the performer or the performances. I think it failed because it never really got like the appropriate introduction to the audience. Yeah. Like, what exactly is a Ron Killings compared to an R-Truth?
Sean O'Haire was seen as an incredible gifted athlete that looked to have finally landed a great character in 2003 when vignettes began airing on SmackDown, hyping him up as the devil's advocate.
Why do you even need to pay taxes? They're nothing but a scam. And who's gonna know? Do you think the IRS has time to go after a little guy like you? Laws are merely suggestions. Live life the way that you want to. Do it for you.
The video packages were very good and created quite a bit of buzz with fans believing the character had a lot of potential.
Stop the prayers. Hit the snooze. You'll go next week. And if there is a God, he'll forgive you. It'll make your relationship stronger in the end. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. You'll appreciate your wife more.
The problem was O'Haire couldn't replicate these promos in a live arena setting. He struggled to showcase the same charisma as we saw in the vignettes.
Are you telling me that I should flash the audience tonight?
Oh my God!
You want me to streak?
What? Oh no!
He really did it.
Oh my God!
That was the wrestling version of Milli Vanilli. It was so cool to watch, but if he'd ever had to open his mouth live, he would have been over with.
He continued to be featured, however, and was never pinned in a singles match on SmackDown as this character. Eventually, Shawn became more stripped back and spoke less as he was paired with the returning Roddy Piper as his manager. O'Haire would even defeat Hulk Hogan via countout during this period, but there was little in terms of follow-up, especially after Piper was fired. Shawn departed in April 2004 after 5 months of inactivity. Overall, O'Haire just couldn't make the Devil's Advocate persona work.
The rep on Sean O'Haire was not good. I don't know if it was attitudinal, just his lack of social skills.
The gimmick itself had legs, Shawn just didn't have the personality to pull it off, and thus got lost in the shuffle once the character was dropped. O'Haire drew comparisons to Karrion Kross a decade later. Kross was able to flesh things out more while also possessing the charisma to really pull the character off well. Kross returned to WWE in 2022, where he began to craft his heel puppet master persona that sought to find the devil inside his babyface rivals.
Do something about it, Ray. TikTok. When are you gonna let this guy shine? When you retire? Because if that's the case, I can help you look into some early retirement plans. No.
Over time, many of Karrion's foes began to either turn to the dark side or find the edge they were lacking. In most cases, this wasn't pushed heavily on TV as part of the story, but Kross made sure on social media to tie everything together in a way that gave his character meaning. This was important since Kross wasn't being featured every week, so continuing the lore outside of the show began to strike a chord with the fans.
Everybody I've been dealing with here in WWE, eventually, I get them to show their true colors.
After losing his Final Testament faction, Kross's time in the ring began to get limited, appearing exclusively in backstage segments and doing interviews during commercial breaks.
I'm just the devil you know versus the devils you don't.
But again, he wasn't on every week. However, fans were getting more and more invested in his work. Online, the people were lobbying to see him get a push.
Kross is in trouble and Dragon Lee does damage.
If he were getting great opportunities, if he were the Intercontinental Champion or the U.S. Champion right now, would he have this level of support from the crowd? Reminds me of someone else, by the way, that the audience felt, this is our guy. We'd like him to be a bigger star. Why aren't you making him a bigger star?
Although Kross's stop-and-start rivalries with the likes of AJ Styles and Sami Zayn persisted. Meanwhile, the stuff we did see on screen was good, but could have been better if more creative leeway was given.
You're not a good guy. You're a bad guy. Just like the rest of us.
What is this obsession with you and this other AJ Styles?
Because I can't let you lose at Mania. If you lose, we all lose. We need him. I tried to make the little things I had backstage mean as much as possible, and the audience actually forced their hand to use me.
Kross didn't have a match at WrestleMania 41 in his home residence of Las Vegas, but his presence was still very much felt as he shot his own angle with Styles at the Hall of Fame red carpet. This led to him being asked to come on WWE's WrestleMania Recap podcast, where Karrion cut an unscripted work shoot promo that upset the higher-ups, including creative figurehead Triple H.
Guy with the suit and tie in the truck, go fuck yourself. That's from Killer Kross. No.
Although Kross made it clear he wasn't targeting any one person in particular, during his tirade, Karrion rued all the missed creative opportunities WWE had fumbled with him over the past year.
The entire world is talking about my story right now. I don't want to get in trouble and have another viral moment. Thank you, brother.
This is when cries of "We want Kross" began to rapidly intensify.
Well, now you got me!
Karrion's contract expired in August 2025, and as of September, he has not signed a new one due to the lack of an appropriate offer. That's despite the big push and groundswell to see him maintain a presence in the company.
They leaked my fucking contract information online. I have no privacy, nothing.
You have it. You've got it. Yeah, you want Brock, you've got it.
Especially in those last 4 months where Kross produced 2 out-of-character independent documentaries that not only increased his popularity, but also asked more questions of WWE and how they could miss the boat with someone the fans clearly wanted to see pushed.
I was waiting for that phone call the whole time, and then to get that particular phone call that I got, and there was still so much uncertainty after the phone call, I was like, man.
We'd sometimes see Kross tucked away backstage in scenes involving other wrestlers. This storyline device was often used by Triple H, where wrestlers having a conversation in the background would have implications later on. This wasn't always the case, however, since we'd also see talent speaking to each other in which their interaction had no bearing on the story. This could simply be a way of fans talking and speculating about where things are going, but it's also true that some of these conversations were meant to have an effect down the line.
On commentary, it's Pat McAfee.
So JBL done changed his name, dog?
A good example being the reunion of the Hurt Business, which was teased for weeks on screen.
That was must-watch television. You are channel-changing television.
If at some point you should decide to expand that business, my number's the same.
Until behind the scenes, Triple H ultimately decided against it.
The Hurt Business got shut down in WWE for reasons that have never been made clear to me. No one has ever said, and I begged Vince, Bobby begged Vince, like, please don't do this. Vince had his ideas of what he wanted to do. You know, there are people there in management that I dislike immensely. A person, and I won't even bother to get into that.
Speaking of Triple H, his run-ins with The Rock in 2014 and 15 teased an upcoming match between the two taking place at a future WrestleMania. The first tease was on the October 10, 2014 SmackDown, where the show celebrated 15 years on the air.
We go to WrestleMania, name the time, the place, the stadium, the hundreds of thousands of people. I will whip the dog. I will.
Rock and Hunter's next showdown saw them hint towards a tag match featuring the Great One and Ronda Rousey against The Game and his wife Stephanie McMahon.
She's going to reach down your throat and pull your insides out and play jump rope with your fallopian tubes.
And Rock unloaded on Triple H. Oh, look at Ronda.
The tag match was the eventual plan. However, The Rock's busy schedule in Hollywood meant things never came to fruition. Triple H and Steph went on to wrestle Ronda at WrestleMania 34 with Kurt Angle as her partner instead.
It's unfortunately for me, I always feel like it's the one thing, like we got to this unbelievably heated long-term rivalry and then never got to pay it off on the biggest platform possible. And I think Rock feels that way too. Is why a couple of years ago we did a backstage little thing.
I saw that last night. Hilarious.
Yeah.
So funny.
And that was literally him coming to me and saying like, dude, I want to do a match next year. I'd like to do it with you. Like, let us have that WrestleMania match we never got to have. And I was like, yeah, I'm in.
Why did that not happen?
His schedule.
The Rock had previously been paired with Trish Stratus when they got revenge on their rival Vince McMahon. Rock and Trish's pairing seemed to suggest a romance between the two after they kissed on the December 3rd Raw from 2001. The hinted romance only lasted a few weeks before Rock and Trish continued to work alone in their respective divisions.
There'll be plenty of time for you to smell what The Rock.
It's said historically that Chairman Vince didn't like positioning two top babyfaces in a relationship together, in fear that the audience would turn on them. Another one-off smooch occurred the next year when Raw general manager Eric Bischoff forced himself on SmackDown GM Stephanie. This seemed like just another heel act by Eric, until McMahon began to enjoy the kiss. This was another one-off shock done simply to pop the audience on the night. Stephanie acting like she wanted to kiss Bischoff made absolutely no sense given the feud between the two. Vince didn't even try to make it go anywhere, as he told the writers to forget it ever happened after they pitched ideas trying to make sense of it all.
How does Vince direct you?
Get in there, pal! Get into those puppies! Look at them! Embrace it! And when you get those lips lock, I want to see.
Can I be edited out of this segment?
I'm gonna bend her over. And you're going to kiss her with all of the passion you can find.
The endgame for a romance in wrestling usually has someone turning on the other, and this was the plan when Nia Jax began an infatuation with Enzo Amore in December 2017.
Well, what do we got over here?
How you doing?
This lasted for just over a month until abruptly ending when Amore was released due to real-life accusations leveled against him from a woman in Phoenix, Arizona. Enzo has since revealed that he and Nia were to begin a relationship that would end after Jax caught Amore hooking up with her friend Alexa Bliss, thus turning Jax into a babyface.
Nia! I really need to talk to you. It's either him or me.
This would then lead to a match between the two at WrestleMania 34. The match still ended up happening, just without Enzo's involvement given his firing in January 2018. Big Show and Shaquille O'Neal first crossed paths in WWE back in 2009.
Boom shakalaka!
And then again at WrestleMania 32.
Shaq with his own too. We got a stalemate.
With the aim of getting them both in the ring against one another the next year. Show had previously worked a famous sports star in Floyd Mayweather at Mania 24 to much press, so it only made sense for two of the world's largest athletes to collide on the grandest stage.
Before he retires, it'll just be me against him. So if you're listening, I'm ready to take on Big Show whenever, wherever.
Shaq's the one that needs to show up and get it done, not me. I work there. He's got to come to me. I don't need to go to him.
Let's do it.
You serious?
Let's do it. I'm in. Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, I'm in.
I'm in too, hey.
Next time when I fight Big Show and body slam him over a table, that's going down next year in Orlando.
That's a big man.
Big Show vs. Shaq was lined as a marquee attraction for WrestleMania 33. Show even got himself in the best shape of his career ahead of the clash, but the match never happened. While plenty of reasons were rumored for the cancellation, such as money and O'Neal not being in shape, Big Show chalked it up to scheduling issues and poor communication from WWE.
I think the biggest thing was aligning WWE and Shaq for what WWE's vision was of the match that they wanted us to have.
Shaq said it was problems on the company's end that caused the bout to be scrapped, since they wanted to make it a tag match instead of a singles. Regardless, it was a massive blunder, given how literally massive the match could have been.
People way above my pay grade couldn't put that deal together.
One part of the Bloodline story that never got fully fleshed out was the role played by the elders of the family. They were certainly mentioned a couple times over the course of the storyline.
Blessed by the elders of his family, adorned with the chief's beads.
The elders, they may have sent you, but you answer to me now.
I acknowledge you, my tribal chief.
They were alluded to as the ultimate higher powers of the family that could make decisions which would override that of even the tribal chief, Roman Reigns.
This is tribal combat now.
Do the elders know about this?
It was their idea, Oos.
He said it was the elders' idea. He's not supposed to be talking to them. Only I talk to them.
The reason the elders and their decisions didn't play a bigger, more prolonged role in the story was likely due to the tragic passing of both Afa and Sika in August and June of 2024. Rikishi is also seen as one of the elders. However, unlike the Wild Samoans, he was not given an on-screen role at any point in the Bloodline story. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our similar video on 10 wrestling promos so real they'll break your heart. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.